Min-mai could look entirely different if a planned residential development goes ahead. 520 hectares of land surrounding the village is set to be cleared and developed, extending the town to the north and also south to the Newcastle Link Road. All up, 3,282 dwellings will be built with varying lot sizes and densities, creating homes for about 9,000 people.
During the consultation with the residents, it came out that what they wanted from us was a range of housing on the site. So we've been able to include a variety of housing types.
While some residents are opposed as they like the rural lifestyle of Min-mai, the Green Corridor Coalition is supportive. Most of the coal and allied land, which is in the middle of a green belt, will be left untouched.
The ratio approximately is 80% conservation and 20% development. So, that's a very good ratio.
The majority of the site that we have around Min-mai and Stockrington is proposed to be transferred for permanent conservation. That's more than 2,000 hectares will go to conservation.
The concept plan is on exhibition on the Department of Planning website. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The Lucky Country Hotel's days are numbered, with Newcastle City Council last night approving its demolition and redevelopment.
This is a good decision. It'll see revitalisation in a very important part of the city. That location is really a transition between the mall and the civic centre.
The building's historic facade will be retained and the project is estimated to cost $6 million. Councillors also voted to rebuild a 30-metre section of ageing seawall near Nobby's Beach.
And it's what holds the road up. No seawall, no road. So it's a very important location in the city. We want to repair it.
Improvements will also be made to the adjoining footpath to accommodate a new Pasha Bolka sculpture. But last night's meeting wasn't all smooth sailing. Councillor Aaron Buman submitted a motion to review building a new regional museum at Honeysuckle following an increase in building costs from $13 million to $23 million. That request was knocked back.
Look, I'm a bit disappointed because we've got $10 million worth of repairs to the town hall to do. Carbon trading's costing council, water's gone up, electricity's gone up. We're under a lot of financial stress.
And councillors voted to defer making any decision on outsourcing its garbage collection services following a 24-hour strike by council's garbage collectors and talks with the United Services Union.
It's very likely, and I'm hopeful, that we can reach a higher standard of efficiency with an in-house service.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
At 44 years of age, Freya Hofmeister has already achieved a lot in her life. She's a mother, a former beauty contestant, a gymnast and bodybuilder. Now she's turned her attention to conquering the high seas. She's attempting to paddle 15,000 kilometres around Australia without a support crew. She started in Melbourne on the 14th of January and after setting off from Terrigal yesterday, headed north to Swansea.
Well, it has been going everything nice and I can't complain about the trip. Just made good distance, good speed and well, I'm going to go out there in the ugly weather right now.
But that ugly weather continued and proved a much bigger problem than anticipated. She's met with gale-force winds and heavy rain being generated by a slow-moving low-pressure system. Ms Hofmeister did arrive safely at Swansea 7 hours behind schedule, but she wasn't able to be contacted by her land crew until she arrived. Her kayak was also nudged by a hammerhead shark. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
For the local ferry and charter boat operators, the sand and sediment clogging the mouth of the Mile River is becoming more frustrating.
This is the narrowest and the shallowest section of the river that we have to navigate through. Sometimes we only have about a foot of water underneath us.
It's a constant challenge for skippers to negotiate, especially at low tide, and the situation is getting worse.
It has silted up a lot. We, especially carrying the amount of people that we do, we have to watch when we go through there. We don't ever hit bottom, but we do scrape it sometimes. They really do need to dredge it because it is silting up.
The Mile Waterways Chamber of Commerce believes the ferry brings hundreds of holidaymakers to Tea Gardens, and they don't want that jeopardised.
This is going to considerably retard the numbers of vessels that can use the Mile River, and with them, of course, they bring with them a business opportunity for the town's businesses.
There are two problems here. Boating and navigation, and also the environmental impact, and we're mostly concerned with the environmental impact.
The blockage is preventing the tidal flow, causing low salinity and murky brown water, while the recent rain is flushing more fresh water into the system, causing oyster leases to be abandoned. A committee made up of Great Lakes and Port Stephens councils today resolved to make an application to the state and federal governments for funding to dredge the river mouth and for further studies. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's a case of back on home turf, for a little while at least, for Robbie Middleby. The 33-year-old is mid-move from Sydney FC to North Queensland. In the meantime, he's had a troublesome knee operated on and is offering some tips to aspiring stars taking part in a new Broadmeadow-based competition that uses inflatable barriers called Super 5.
It's a great concept. The ball doesn't, when you do a miss kick or something, the ball doesn't fly around elsewhere. You've got to go run for it. It stays in the area, but it's still outdoors. It's just a great concept.
Skills and fitness honed from an early age got Middleby noticed by the Fury, a team that will boast renowned EPL goal poacher Robbie Fowler and perhaps even Socceroo Scott Chipperfield. Also there, Middleby's former Newcastle teammate Daniel McBreen, a striker who's impressed plenty of people while playing in England and Scotland.
I spoke to Ian Ferguson, the coach, and I gave him all good reports, so he better not let me down with that.
Middleby has a 2-year deal with the Fury. After that, helping more local youngsters like these is one goal he's aiming for.
Well, last 2 years before that, I thought it was the last 2 years, but I'm pretty sure these last 2 years I'm back in Newcastle.
Colin Baldwin, NBN News. He's a man with two vastly different jobs. One
within council in relation to accepting gifts. Councillors and employees were not disclosing benefits such as accommodation, tickets and dinners with local developers. It says there is evidence to suggest that an ongoing relationship between the former Mayor John Clarence, the former General Manager Cole Cowan and a Director of High Trade Constructions influenced council entering into private works. That's relating to controversial council roadworks associated with the Crown Plaza Hotel at Pecolbin, where the former Mayor John Clarence and his wife were given free accommodation. High Trade also paid for an 11-day trip to China for Mr Clarence and Mr Cowan.
There is a new code of conduct in place. We've just recently completed training for all councillors and all staff. It's been made very clear to them what's expected of them.
The new council has 12 months to meet the report's recommendations.
We'll come back to the department with an action plan as to how we need to do what we need to do, and we will vigorously implement those as quickly as we possibly can.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Hunter Waters says its $700 million capital works program will guarantee us high water quality and improve sewage services. Most of the money will be spent repairing existing infrastructure.
Pipes, some stormwater management, it's about sewage upgrades, it's about water treatment, the whole suite of capital works.
The company will spend a further $406 million creating the Tilligra Dam, which, despite community anger, the Minister says will be built.
This Minister of Water is going ahead with Tilligra Dam. He has his foot on the metal, he's ready to move forward.
Resident groups claim the area's heritage value and geographical makeup make it an inappropriate site for the dam, but the Minister says he's happy with the information he's received in support of it.
Very good rainfall here, your dam will be a very good dam.
Of course, residents will ultimately pay for the project.
Estimates at the moment is that the Tilligra might cost around $60 a year per ratepayer.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The flashing lights, smashed cars and emergency crews. It's a scene which has become far too common on the New England highway at Harpers Hill. In October last year, tragedy struck when a woman died after a car veered onto the wrong side of the road and smashed into another. Today, residents called a public meeting. They're asking what more evidence do governments need to fix the 3-kilometre section.
What is reported here is the 9 deaths in 12 years. What is not reported are the accidents that happen here, and there have been dozens and dozens of them.
The RTA has been approached. So far, there's been no action.
Now, they told us at that point that this particular part of the highway, even though it's a national highway, didn't conform to federal black spot funding.
On their wish list, a drop in the current speed limit of 100 kilometres an hour, road widening, as well as the F3 to Branxton Link Road, which would reduce traffic. They're also calling for several turning lanes into the various roads off the New England Highway, and so far they have the support of the state opposition.
As far as carbon footprints go, they don't get much bigger than that of the Hunter. Mines, the world's biggest coal port, and the state's hub of power generation. Now the city has beaten others across Australia to a $20 million clean energy innovation centre. Key stakeholders getting down to work after today's announcement. The centre, to be housed in this building at the University of Newcastle, will provide expert know-how for businesses trying to tap into the clean energy sector.
For example, they may have a technology but it needs further development, it might need further research, or it might need product development. Our role is to help position that company to connect with the right provider.
It's all part of the Rudd government's plan to slash carbon emissions by 2020. Only small to medium-sized businesses valued at $1 million or more qualify to use the centre, but the door is still open to good ideas.
If there are those wonderful ideas and this program can assist and the limits do exclude people, then I think that's something that the government will take on board.
The centre is expected to be open by the middle of this year.
The Ombudsman's report itself acknowledges that the university is behaving exactly the same way as every other university in New South Wales.
It's go time for EA Stadium's Old Western Grandstand, with demolition work beginning today. While politicians announced the start of work, contractors carried it out behind them. It's taken 8 years to get to this point and will take another 2 before work on the $60 million project is complete. Once that happens, the stadium, which is home to the Newcastle Knights and Jets, will be able to seat 33,000 people. That capacity can be boosted to 40,000, with temporary stands able to be brought in.
It really does set us well for attracting not just sporting but also entertainment events here in Newcastle. We could not do that before. We could not compete with other facilities, but we can. We are on par with the best in the country now.
Already there's talk of one international event at the stadium.
I understand that the FFA in their proposals for the 2018 World Cup bid will include Newcastle as part of that.
But new and additional seating isn't the only thing the new grandstand will incorporate. There'll also be new change rooms, one of which is already complete. The other should be finished by mid-June.
We'll have 4 up-to-date, the best in the league change rooms. We've gone from being the worst to the best.
The grandstand's redevelopments will provide 2,200 workers with jobs, and its construction shouldn't interfere with crowd numbers during the Newcastle Knights' upcoming season.
Our capacity is down to about 22,000. The average crowds in recent seasons haven't been above that.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Saturday's clash between Newcastle and Melbourne will be a game of 2 halves, in more ways than one. In the first act, Luke Walsh gets to stake his claim on the Knights' halfback position. In the second, it'll be his rival, Scott Duro.
There's a little bit of a niggle there, just a bit of a joke and a laugh now and then. It's always competitive with me and Scotty. A little bit of healthy competition, I think it'll make us both better players, so can't wait.
Walsh appears to have a head start. Jaron Mullen will be alongside him at 5/8, and they're no strangers to playing together. Duro's partner will be Knights newcomer Ben Rogers, but the halfback hopeful says the combination has been working well at training. So it'll be a fair fight between 2 good mates. Well, mostly.
I've forgotten to spot him a few times in the gym, but that's about it.
There's a very good friendly rivalry, running around in all the halves. We're all real good friends, and I think that's the best thing about it.
Meanwhile, Peter Matayutai will be lining up for his second taste of first grade, having just signed with the Knights until the end of 2011. The promising utility has 2 younger brothers in the lower grades, and sibling combinations have worked well for the club before. As for who's the best player...
Probably the youngest one.
What, you're not rating yourself?
It's pretty hard when they're bigger than you.
The NRL trial kicks off at Melbourne's Princes Park at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. Colin Baldwin, NBN News. When Joel Griffiths left to join Beijing, it wasn't entirely clear whether he'd be taking the field against his old club when the pair meets in the Asian Champions League. Now his brother Adam, for one, believes that will happen.
As I spoke to him on Skype the last couple of days, and he seems to think that he's going to be taking the field as long as he's fit. He's got a little bit of a sore hamstring, so...
While the thought of seeing the star striker playing against Newcastle is sure to horrify Jets fans, coach Gary Van Egmond doesn't seem too worried, nor does he think Griffiths' appearance would jeopardise his chances of returning to the club.
He's been asked to go out and loan. If that was the case, then the club shouldn't have let him go in the first place.
The immediate concern is preparations on the home front. An on-target Sasho Petrosky and fellow signing Lubo Milicevic will get some time on the paddock against NBN State League side Edgeworth this Saturday, with a trial against the Central Coast to follow on Tuesday. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
You couldn't find a better place to raise awareness about illegal dumping and launch Clean Up Australia Day. Belmont State Park is anything but a park. It's littered with everything from household rubbish, white goods, there's even a mass of dialysis bags.
Unfortunately, it's not only individuals who are dumping, but some of this is premeditated commercial dumping. Now, that is absolutely disgusting and un-Australian.
For those who are trying to restore order there, it's an ongoing battle.
This is something that belongs to us, and we need to respect our own backyard. We wouldn't dump like this in our own backyard.
Clean Up Australia Day chairman Ian Keenan led by example today. He'd like to see greater policing to stop illegal dumpers.
We need to be vigilant. We need to enforce and impose the fine mechanism that is there, because that is the only thing that these illegal dumpers and irresponsible people will understand.
There are $1,500 on-the-spot fines for those caught dumping illegally. Huge fines and jail can await those who are prosecuted. For now, though, all eyes are on Clean Up Australia Day on March 1, where Belmont State Park will get some much-needed TLC.
The strength of your community, they've said, we've got a problem, we can fix it. And they're here to fix it, and they will fix it.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
It's a favourite spot for holidaymakers and retirees on the bank of the Mile River and only minutes from the beach. Tea Gardens is a small community of only a few thousand, but land to the north of the town could soon be developed, bringing in an extra 2,100 people.
There's about 240 hectares of land, which has a 2-kilometre frontage to the Mile River, and we are using for residential development about 45% of that site.
Central Coast developer Crichton Properties is behind a $335 million mixed-use development which has gone on public exhibition.
We have agreed to contribute $8 million toward local infrastructure in the form of roads and bicycle tracks and waterfront upgrades and help for the surf club and the library and the like.
And while the council ponders the project, it's welcomed a $300,000 grant from the Department of Lands for the dredging of the Corrie Channel to improve access for vessels. Around 10,000 cubic metres of sand and sediment will be removed, which is clogging the mouth of the Mile River. The funding has been provided on a 50-50 basis, so Great Lakes and possibly Port Stephens Council will contribute to the works. Unfortunately, there has been no funding commitment for a long-term solution to the siltation problem. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. It's their old stomping ground known as Pommy Town in Mayfield, where Lysart's built about 60 brick cottages for employees and their families. Many are still standing. Ethel Jones and Min Knott were born here. Their fathers were among the original Lysart workers who immigrated from England to work in Newcastle.
My dad did, Dan Allen, as the first blacksmith to be employed by Lysart's, and then after that there was another boatload come out in 1922 and another lot come in 25.
It was expected their descendants would also work in Lysart's steel sheet rolling mills and galvanising works.
One of my uncles said, our Ethel's got a boyfriend. He doesn't work at Lysart's. We were married just over 4 years and he left the railway and come to work at Lysart's, and he then said, now I feel as if I'm one of you.
And the neighbourhood was like one big family.
It's a friendship that'll never go. And I heard one lady say to me that you can take the girl out of Pommy Town, but you can't take Pommy Town out of the girl.
Because everyone cared for everyone, and there was a lot of love in Pommy Town.
A Pommy Town reunion will be held at St Andrews at Mayfield on March 8.
Opportunities there, I'm going to try and take it with both hands and, just prove to Smitty and the coaching staff that I can get that last spot.
I'm as hungry as what I've ever been right now, and I'm more mature than ever. So it'll definitely be a hard fight, and these are the fights I need to be world champion and to compete with the big boys.
Surfest has long prided itself on being an event for all ages, and World Tour event winner Adrian Barkin is living proof of what it can provide. While dominating junior events when coming through the ranks, Surfest was a particular favourite for the Central Coaster, as he picked up wins in the 14s, 16s and Pro Junior titles before graduating to the seniors. He came close to adding the MR Pro to the list in 2004 and would have done, save for a memorable meeting with Kelly Slater, who snapped his own board in the final yet still won the crown. This time around, it's Barkin who's top seed and out to complete the Surfest trophy cabinet.
It's fantastic to see Ace come through as our number one seed. He's been a long-time supporter of the event. He's won every event except the main one, and this could be his year.
With world number one Stephanie Gilmore unable to defend her title, her arch-rival Sofia Milanovic headlines the women's draw, and she'll take plenty of stopping.
Definitely, I'd put her down, and she's got a bit between her teeth there. She wants to prove a point, and this will be one of the events she wants to take.
Despite being forced to downgrade the main events due to the declining dollar and other global financial pressures, Surfest's ability to attract the top seeds shouldn't be underestimated. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Paul Allen says his stepson Jamie Purdon was a regular kid who played footy, rode motorbikes and was planning to move to WA with his girlfriend Misty Lee.
We're trying to come to terms with this mindless act of violence and the tragic outcome that it's had.
The concreter was at the show with mates, enjoying a night on the town.
Brought his heart into his work through the week, and then weekend was playtime, so...
Today there were few signs of the violence that took place near one of the pavilions about 11 o'clock.
Basically he was given a king hit from behind, he's fallen, hit his head on the concrete and we've lost him.
Detectives have interviewed a number of people from last night and are keen to speak with anyone else who can assist.
In particular, they're seeking the male driver of a 1973 blue Ford Cortina. Organisers closed the show early to help with the investigation.
You've got to put the bloke above the show. Shows come and go, blokes don't.
The committee has beefed up security in recent years, paying to have extra police rostered on and engaging private guards.
We basically have 28 security on site for the show last night and we'll have the same again tonight. And technically that's the security person every 100 metres. No, and you can't be any closer than that.
It's not the first time there's been a death here at the Maitland Show. In February 1984, 16-year-old Stacey Lee Kirk was sexually assaulted and strangled. Her body was found hidden behind a toilet block. In 2003, the death was linked through DNA to carnival ride worker Ian Raymond Sargent, who had died a year earlier. Penny Evans, NBN News.
Suddenly dawns on you that suddenly dawns on you that
Waiting until the second half before getting his first chance in Jets colours, Sasho Petrovski was welcomed with open arms. And the more he does this, the happier everyone will be, with the former Sydney and Mariners striker taking less than 20 minutes to do what he does best.
Got a pretty good record scoring on debut, so I thought I'd like to keep that, intact, so it worked out well.
With a bit of luck, he could have scored even more, but the signs were still good. Copping a bit of attention on an already sore ankle, Petrovski knows better than most the Mariners will dish out plenty more in their practice match on Tuesday, considering he was playing for them only a week ago.
Yeah, there probably will be a little bit of mucking around out there with them, but, it's all good.
As for today's game, it was an improvement on their first outing, with Dutch import Donny de Groot adding his second in as many matches early in the game, while Italian Fabio Vignaroli continues to impress as well. The former Lazio star was a hard...
On the foreshore, the national tragedy was tempered with a bit of frivolity and fun. While parents and children enjoyed rides and free face painting at the fundraiser, the Red Cross rattled their tins, collecting cash for the Victorian bushfire victims. The region's politicians organised the event.
I thought, well, if we could make $10,000, that'd be a good contribution. Well, I'm expecting to raise well above that already.
We're a very generous community right around the region, but Lake Macquarie, residents have always got in and helped out when it's been necessary.
Everyone was asked to dig deep, not even children were safe from fundraising pollies. Local bands like Swansea-based folk group Soup and Song kept crowds entertained. Meantime, friends and family of hit-and-run victim Ricky Lee Bell rallied to raise money for the 21-year-old at Warners Bay Bowling Alley. The Belmont North woman suffered brain, eye and arm injuries after she was hit by a car outside King Street Hotel on the 4th of November. Her family doesn't know where they'll spend the money, but say it's greatly needed.
Just to get Ricky out and going and just to have some money behind her, because I don't know if she'll be able to work again.
And it's the generosity of those who love her that Ricky's counting on.
I couldn't do it at friends or family. No way.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Trial matches have long been described as necessary evils, and this is why. Every night's heart skipped a beat when key off-season buy Isaac Dagoy clutched at his shoulder, but X-rays today cleared him of a break. Felled in back play, Scott Giroux copped another knock on an already troublesome ankle and wasn't able to complete the match either. But it's fellow half Ben Rogers that's in most trouble with his own ankle problem. It was leaky defence Newcastle had to address in a shocker of a start to the game. The Storm had 4 tries on the board before Newcastle even got close. Fringe first grader Cameron Serraldo continues to stake his claim for a permanent spot. And as the game wore on, Newcastle stiffened up in defence. But this long-range effort was the real highlight in attack. Zeb Taylor going the distance as Newcastle finished the stronger, but with work to be done yet.
I've never been to the races before, so very excited.
You're on quite a winning streak.
I know, maybe I should put a bet on.
As a team, I thought we had more contributors than probably last year at stages. We only had half a dozen who made real contributions to the game.
Ask any resident in the Nelson Bay area and they're sure to have an opinion about Tomaree Hospital. Today, more than 100 locals turned out to voice their concerns at a forum organised by member for Port Stephens, Craig Bowman.
Having only got 6 months of chemo, I was able to discuss with a lot of people having chemo at the same time as I was, the issues that surround Port Stephens.
I'm sorry, but I get upset about this. Sorry.
Put simply, the community wants more full-time staff, not locum doctors, and an increase in local services. State Shadow Health Minister Gillian Skinner says the Liberals would be more transparent with the hospital's funding if they were in power. It seems local doctors are just as frustrated as their patients. Some of them met with the Shadow Health Minister this morning and told her they want more input into how the hospital is run.
What they want is the right to admit their own patients and look after them when they need hospitalisation, and in return, they will do an overnight roster.
The ability to perform chemotherapy is a long-term goal, but a full-time facility for dialysis is high on the agenda.
So we'll obviously be pursuing that to see how many patients, legitimate dialysis patients we have, and see if it is more economical to put a unit up here.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
On any given night, sex workers line Maitland Road in Islington. According to residents and police, there are up to 40 girls working the area. Street prostitution is illegal, but it's been going on in Islington for more than a decade.
We want the law and order to be enforced. What's happening is illegal. It causes distress and concern to residents, and it shouldn't be allowed to continue.
A public meeting has been called tonight with the Islington Action Group inviting senior police, Newcastle MP Jodie McKay, the Lord Mayor, councillors and residents.
A lot of people are rightly angry, passionate because nothing's been happening. You ring up and complain and nothing happens.
Police do regular blitzes of the area, but residents and business owners are asking for an ongoing operation, similar to one carried out in the Sydney suburb of Canterbury. Operation Crystals achieved unprecedented success. Police made 242 arrests, while the number of prostitutes was reduced from 33 to just 1 or 2.
We're not asking for a move-on thing. We don't want to put this problem in someone else's suburb. The girls have a problem. They need to be off the street. They need to get help.
Tonight's public meeting will be held at the Islington Baptist Church Hall from 6:30. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Ryan Agland is getting married on Saturday and will miss his final suit fitting. The 25-year-old from the New Lambton Brigade was one of 16 firefighters who left for Victoria this afternoon.
Excited about going, I wanted to do it for a while, so finally a couple of weeks late.
Ryan has assured his fiancée he'll be waiting for her at the end of the aisle on Saturday.
She cried when she was dropped me off, but she just told me to come back safe.
He is joined by firefighters from across the region, including Taralba, Minmai, Cardiff and Maitland, who will spend the next 4 days relieving crews in areas threatened by fire.
It's been a long campaign down there, and the crews that have been working really hard for the last week are starting to get fatigued, and with that sort of fatigue, that's when mistakes can happen and people can get hurt.
Port Stephens businesses are also doing what they can to help out. The council-owned and operated Samurai Beach Resort and Soldiers Point Holiday Park are offering free accommodation. 6 villas and 6 rooms will give families affected by the tragedy a much-needed break. As the curtain came down on the 148th Maitland show, the question that couldn't be answered today was whether there would be a show next year.
You've got 1,000 hours plus of volunteer time to run a community event for a non-profit organisation. You wonder why you're doing it.
21-year-old Raymond Terrace man Jamie Purdon died on Friday night following an altercation. A 17-year-old from Pecolbin has been charged with manslaughter. Show organisers will work with police to determine whether security at the weekend was adequate. There were 8 police at the ground on Friday night, as well as roving security staff. The incident happened just 50 metres from a police mini-station that was set up down here, and it was just outside a fully staffed show office.
I guess now I'd love to have closed circuit TV, but no, the good question is how do you do that on the showground? We want families. No, if you're an idiot, go and fight outside, just don't bother coming in.
Colleen West, NBN News. Painful but not serious is the simplest way to describe the shoulder strain Isaac De Goey suffered against Melbourne. But he'll take it, considering he feared the worst on Saturday night, only to get the thumbs up from medical staff today.
Very happy with the outcome. I was really a bit scared when it happened and heard a few cracks in that, but got some scans and yeah, all good.
Ben Rogers was also a relieved man today. Out of an ankle brace and not even requiring crutches today, he'll actually have a run tomorrow at training with this weekend's trial against the Sharks in mind.
I think I'll, play it by ear and see how I pull up tomorrow after I run tomorrow and take it from there. But, I think I should be right for the weekend, hopefully.
He shared a room and ice bucket with fellow half Scott Giroux after Saturday's match after he also suffered an ankle problem. But Giroux too was cleared of serious damage and should play at Cessnock. De Goey, however, will get further medical advice on Thursday before making his decision on whether he'll front former teammates for the first time.
We got him around 2 anyway, nice and early, so I'm not too fussed about that. But, Doc said, rather rest, so it's just a trial match and, I'll sit it out and be ready for round 1.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Arriving to Newcastle in time for training today, Nikolai Topor-Stanley hit the ground running after what's been a worldly ride since leaving Perth for Newcastle. It included an unsuccessful stint trialling in England before taking up his 2-year deal at the Jets, but he couldn't rule out a return trip in the future.
That's all speculation. I'm here just to play football and get my head down and do a job and hopefully win a few games in the Champions League and then take it from there.
It'll really start for him tomorrow when Newcastle plays the Central Coast in a trial match where he'll get his first real chance to build combinations, especially with his co-defenders.
Only time will tell, we've just got to play as many games together as possible to get that cohesion and, to really find out each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Each day the squad looks stronger, but time is a commodity in short supply given the opening match of the Asian Champions League is on March 10.
That game against Beijing away will be, as I said, a very, very stern test for us. But no, we're looking forward to the challenge, and I think as the ACL progresses, I think you'll see the more cohesiveness of the group.